Well, Buff Frog's tenure with the castle didn't last very long now, did it? Marco's discovery that Buff Frog is not in his office and has in fact seemingly left a note, one far too legible to actually be from him, prompts Star and Tom, of all people, to go searching for him, leading them to discover that not only is Buff Frog gone, not only are all of his kids gone, but all of the monsters from the monster village have left as well. They eventually discover that he and the residents of the monster village have decided to abandon the human dimension. That while Star has been trying to improve relations, things are not improving as quickly as they would like, and they're starting to worry that they never will, and want to make better lives for themselves. And while Tom does try to convince them not to stay, even admitting something which seems to be painful for him to admit, that technically speaking, he is a monster too. They decide to go through with their plan, and Star is forced to say goodbye to one of her friends. Possibly forever. Kind of like the last episode, this is an episode that I feel is setting up plot points, but not for this season, but the next one. As I imagine the resolution of this season is going to be the stuff with Eclipsa, primarily. Which means that, if I'm right, the plot points regarding the monsters and the unification of humans and monsters are taking a back seat to the stuff with Eclipsa, which I find kind of interesting. It is never outright said, but is implied heavily by the dialogue in this episode that this small population of monsters, because it's never implied that this is all monsters, because there's no way this was all monsters. It had to be just a small portion of them, are leaving not just because things are still bad, but because Star promised that things would get better and then didn't make any real progress. And the only reason for her having not made any progress at this point is the stuff going on with Eclipsa. Star's attention is split right now, and her focus has been more on the stuff with Eclipsa, and I understand why. That stuff hits a lot more close to home for her. It's much more of an immediate priority. But then I also understand where Buff Frog and all of these monsters are coming from. They were promised something better, and now it's seeming from their perspective that that something better isn't going to come, that it's a failure. How can you just go back to your regular life as a peasant, for lack of a better term, after something like that happens, if there is a different option for you to pursue? I both liked and disliked Tom in this episode. He only goes with Star, he only helps her to try to solve this mystery because he's trying to further solidify their relationship, and while I appreciate that, that he is trying to be a good boyfriend to Star, he can't seem to grasp that her priorities are elsewhere, and that the stuff that she's worried about right now is more important than that. He is also the heir to one of these kingdoms, and when we first saw him again, after his attitude started to change back at the ball thing, it seemed like he was really focused on that part of his life. I'm starting to think that his relationship with Star is distracting him from that, and actually stalling what could be some fantastic positive character development for him. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate him or anything. It's clear that he's trying to be a better person, that he's trying to do better. And that matters to me. His character's done some scummy stuff in the past, but all of the progress that he's making, I'm starting to forgive that. Though, I do wish that his very last line of the episode hadn't been there. Because when he steps up to talk to the monsters and try to convince them that he can relate to them and therefore they should remain behind, which doesn't really track to begin with. Tom may look like a monster, Tom may technically be a monster, but the royals all throughout Muni, regardless of their form, are all treated as if they're on the human side of the divine. I thought that maybe he was starting to get it. Maybe he was starting to see that the best way to make Star happy right now is to help her with what is clearly one of her major priorities, and that maybe he was even starting to see the importance of what she was doing. But then at the end, it's revealed that he just did it to try to show up Marco, which is his other thing right now. He clearly sees Star's friendship with Marco as a threat to his relationship with Star, and so keeps trying to show up Marco as a way of, I guess, asserting dominance and proving that his relationship with her is more important. I mean, as far as I know, he doesn't know that Star and Marco have feelings for each other, right? So assuming that he doesn't, I really can't track his thought process here. But at the end of the day, I still think he's trying to be a better person, and I do think that's eventually going to build up to some really great positive character development for him. I just really wish it would come. I really wish it would just get here, because he is still kind of annoying me. I'm also really not digging the edgy teen Steven Universe look he's got going on right now. I wish he'd change that. All that said, though, this was also a good episode. It didn't blow me away or anything, but it was a good episode, well written, solid comedy. There's a lot of great slapstick comedy in this too. Altogether, it is an example of the new average episode of this show, which is pretty high above the previous average, so I'm pretty happy about that. But as per usual, guys, I'd like to know, what did you think of this episode if you have seen it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord. Link in the description. Either way, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.